Today, myself and Leo sat down with Troy Robert, who is an absolute maestro on multiple social media platforms and has massed an incredible audience creating very unique and entertaining mixed martial arts content. So today we really get stuck into the nitty gritty of all of content creation and how to balance a job on top of that whilst trying to create some of the best content in the game and try and create it to a point where we can make this our full-time job. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we enjoyed having it. Hopefully there's a ton of value there to be had, and let us know in the comments which part was your favorite, because we really enjoyed this one. As always, keep it casual.
I mean, yeah, first of all, how you been? How you been doing? What's the workflow been like for you this week? Like going in?
I mean, everything's good. I've just been playing a little bit of catch up this week. I was sick last weekend, so thank you for postponing.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, just pretty much the same for me. I've been working on another video, but I had a bit of writer's block this week, so I was just like every day just writing the same things over and over. So I'm sure you guys know about that.
Did you catch up with the card last night as well?
Yes, it was actually
fun, isn't it?
Beautiful card. I think, at least to me, as like comparable to 301.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw a lot of debate on Twitter about it being because of the crowd, and obviously there was a lot of. I saw Dana he announced that the Apex Center was being banned or something like that. Not banned, but they're not doing it in the Apex anymore, which I'm sure you are happy about. We talk about it all the time on here as something we just despise. The empty crowds, the novelty's worn off. So we're pretty happy with that. Will, what did you think?
Card was pretty good, and I think it's finally, the truth of it is with the UFC, I think Troy as well, the content you'll make, I think you will probably see this as well, but tell me if I'm wrong. I think there is a certain level with the UFC where there's a tipping point where they say, okay, there's so much conversation around one thing in the fans that we have to sort of address it. And I think it's getting to the point now where there's getting so much pressure. And also the product is proving to be so much better when they're going into these towns and different places. I think it's getting to the point of no return. What do you reckon, Troy? Am I off on that or am I close?
I can't agree more. I mean, I'm from Las Vegas, so I would drive past the Apex.
Nice.
Yeah, I drive past it all the time. And in that area of Las Vegas, it's completely empty for the most part. So the UFC has a huge plot of land. So I've always just wondered, I'm like, if you're really set on the Apex, why would you not just build your own set, build a really big arena, or maybe even like a smaller arena, like maybe like 5,000 or something, because you can fill
it's
a
so
5,000.
much. It adds so much, doesn't it? Even just a few people, yeah.
Something like that. And they could fill it in Las Vegas every night. So to hear that they're wanting to go to city by city again, that's just awesome. I don't know how they'll do it. I mean, they should be able to do it, right? If it's every single week in a different city.
Money. Let's not be around the bush. They can do it. They wanted to do it. They can.
I was gonna say maybe they wouldn't be able to fill it out or something. Maybe that was the holdup. But I feel like you can fill it out in any city because if you can't fill it, you just lower the ticket price.
Yeah, 100%.
I think for the filling, just on that, Leo. No, I was just gonna say, because I agree with you 100%. Because I remember I told you before, Leo, when I did a job once at a terrible removals job, but we were working at Brighton Football Stadium, and it was a couple of days before a Premier League game, and I saw the amount of equipment that rocked up for just filming the Premier League game. It was buses upon buses upon buses of nothing but just cameras, the biggest rigs. And then I realized how much went into production. But like you said, the UFC are at a point now where they have the budget and they have the brand, which is built to a place where they can sell 5,000 tickets in any arena, any given weekend. Because we're talking about the Premier League, the NBA, we're talking about NFL, we're talking about that sort of brand. So if we're talking about them in financial terms, we've got to as well in brand. But sorry, Leo, you were saying, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say, Troy, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here because the main thing we wanted to jump into was content creation and your workflow and creative process. But before we jump into that, I wanted to give you just a couple of quick fire MMA questions. Just a few, put you on the spot. What's your favorite fight in MMA history? UFC, any promotion, Pride, one, anything?
God, I knew you were going to ask
something like that. I put you on the spot.
I should have thought about this. I'm actually going to go with, I think it was, so it's a little fuzzy for me because I think my first UFC fight, it was one of the Tito Chuck Liddell fights.
Oh, damn.
So I think it was Tito Chuck Liddell 2. So that was my very first, MMA fight. So I'll go with that one as my favorite.
That's a good pick. What about your favorite knockout? Sorry, you go after. Favorite knockout.
Favorite knockout. Damn.
Say that one as well. To be fair, that's up there.
I'll go recent. I'll go Josh Emmett on Bryce Mitchell.
Ooh,
that I have never seen anything like. I really thought we witnessed someone die. Like that's not why it's my favorite, but like I've never seen someone get hit that hard with a fist.
Yeah, that's a
sadistic disclaimer there. That's not why I like it, but
it's not the only reason.
No, Leo, I like that because it makes me think. Just when you asked that question, it made me thought of humanizing athletes, which I was like.
Yeah, I take a little inspiration from Alex doing that.
And that that leads me into my next question, Troy. Again, before we get into the sort of the nitty gritty of obviously the creator stuff, I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about. Okay, let me paint the scene. It's a Saturday evening. You're in Vegas and you're getting ready for a pay-per-view. On the agenda is absolutely nothing but 8 hours to just dial into a UFC event. What is your selection of snacks and beverages?
Oof.
Oh. Okay, it has to be for me, pizza, wings, definitely Coke. You know, you have to not a party drug, Coke, but like Coca-Cola. Yeah, I think that's it. If I have like really good pizza, I'm a big pizza guy. So if it's good pizza, I don't even care if the wings are okay. Like as long as they're slightly above average, perfect. So as long as I have pizza,
that might be the most
wings.
American. That might be the most American choice of food I think I've ever heard in my life.
What do you guys like? What's the classic UK kind of like?
I was nodding because
on a coffee. That's what it is for me.
Because when you said that, I think of so many food. I've even got a flipping. This was unintentional, but the food fighters top on. But so many different food fighters episodes I've done look like exactly what you're saying. They look like a nice pizza. Maybe I'll just order in from a nice one, or I'll make a homemade one at home. And then some nice wings that I'll probably do in the air fryer. And then just a bunch of different snacks, some good fizzies. I like to go like a Ripon Spring. But yeah, similar things, to be honest. I think there's a good bit of inspiration that can be taken from the American snack culture with pay-per-views. I think they do some great things. I agree with that. Some good dips.
I don't know.
The South American take, like the Mexican angle. I'm all for these experimentations, Troy. What's the food like in Vegas, actually? Because I hear people say it's good over there.
So I live in Austin now, Austin, Texas. But in Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the food scene.
You said 7 a.m. You must be East, right?
Yeah, Central.
Oh, Central. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. In Vegas, the food's really good because you can get the really high end, at 5-star type restaurants. So everything on the strip is obviously very high end. And then the food scene outside of Las Vegas is like, it's okay because people, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Las Vegas, but
no, I've been East Coast, but I haven't been, I've been the other side. Might bring him in or her.
it's a him, but he, what was I saying about Las Vegas food? Oh yeah, outside of Las Vegas, people don't really realize it, but it's very suburby. I don't know how it would be in the UK, but there's just lots of strip malls. It's very spread out. It's new development, so the food scene's not like doesn't feel very cultural. And then my cat's hitting my light right now, but yeah, Austin feels a lot more cultural because there's a heavy Mexican influence, and then there's every type of food as well. So yeah, I guess Las Vegas is. Anything you want, you can get on the high end if you're willing to pay for it on the strip.
I think that goes for more than food as well.
Sorry, Leo. Just before you go on to the next one. But I was just when you said you lived in Austin, I didn't realize, and that's quite an interesting spot because, I mean, I'm sure you know better than anyone. It seems like in America now there's this really sort of cultural shift from people maybe coming from places like maybe California. And they're more so going to places like Miami now and also Austin. What's it like sort of being a part of that scene where it just continuously rises, which obviously is a large part to do with Joe Rogan, the likes of B Team as well, but things like this are sort of growing the area. What's that like?
Yeah, I love Austin. Austin's just, it's my kind of city because I'm from Las Vegas and then I lived in San Diego. I went to college there and then I got my first job out of college there. So that's like a really big spread out city. And I much prefer just here. Obviously, there's the combat sports element where tons of BJJ gyms. And then I go to a boxing gym here. But yeah, I love Austin. It just feels like anything you want, even though it's not a large city size wise. You can get any type of food here you want. There's always events going on. It feels like a big city, even though it's more of a medium-sized city.
Yeah, nice. And you said about obviously you're working a job, and obviously now you're pivoting into content creation. Do you do that full time now, or is it still a part-time gig for
Still,
you?
yeah, still a part-time. Hopefully one day
Okay.
full time.
So how did you this is where I was going to sort of start off with. How did you pivot into content creation? Because I feel like for most people, whenever I ask this sort of question, is just the love for MMA sort of just takes over and you catch that bug. And obviously you've been watching for a long time, as you said, watching the T2 Ortiz fight. But when did it get to a point where you're like, I can give this a crack at content creation? Because I feel like there's almost a switch moment. That's how it happened for me. I feel like Will was somewhat the same. How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I've tried a few different things up until this point. Like I tried a few American football, like breakdown channels of breaking down film. Because I love American football as well. But the thing that really did it was that my job, they kept saying over and over. This is like around 2019. They kept saying, you know, we need to get on TikTok. Need to get on TikTok. And I don't know if either of you've ever had corporate jobs, but I hate meetings, and I hate meetings when you have the meeting and then you talk for
yes
you talk for 2 hours and then no one takes any action on what they're doing, and everybody's like hypothesizing on what would happen if you took whatever route. And so I was like, I'll just hop on TikTok and, you know, try to make some of my own, and then I'll through that, you know, I can get a feel of what's going on social media and then bring it back to my company. So that's actually where it started. Was I just started making some TikToks, I think, at the very, very end of 2020.
With what you said there, you went over it quickly, but I actually think that's such a major part of the process, which so many people just step over or gloss over or don't think is necessary, is that angle of, okay, let me just test it. Let me trial it. Let me use it. You know, it's like, let me just use the platform and create in any way. What did that look like for you at the early stage? What sort of, when I say testing, I mean, what sort of content were you making? What sort of feedback was you getting or changing? Do you see what I mean with that?
Yeah. I actually started with just complete voiceover. So at the time, it was like right when COVID hit. And so everybody, all the interviews for all athletes, especially in the NFL, were, you know, over Zoom. And so I would just see these things. And I don't know if you guys ever watched Weird Al back in the day.
Oh, yeah, man. Well,
yeah,
Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah.
Yeah. Weird Al, he would splice himself into these interviews. And I was like, I could just narrate over, you know, the interviewer's question and then say something funny and then match it with like a response. So I was doing that, and like it was just something stupid that I was like, we'll see what happens. But it went viral like really, really quick. And then from there, I started like actually putting myself in the interviews. So it started right there. And I guess because of the success on there, that helped as well, because I feel like if you don't see a little bit of success when you start doing something after a while, you know, that's discouraging, and you may not continue on that path, you know.
Just on that, and then I'll throw it over to you, Leo. Do you watch, or have you taken any inspiration from Nardwar before?
Nardwar?
Nardwar?
It sounds like it,
yeah. I love Nardwar. I love great interviewers.
Yeah, because the only reason I say that is just because I had some friends at uni who showed me him, and I'd never seen his content before. And it was just such a unique angle of an interview process, or just a conversation, right? Or just extracting information is maybe a very sterile way of saying it, but eventually having a conversation. I think when I watched your videos, I really loved the angle that it gave, but it also sort of gave that Nardwar feel, or thinking outside the box, to they're still giving answers, but to creative sort of dynamics, right? So yeah, that was really, really cool. But sorry, Leo, you were saying.
Yeah. So the main thing I was really curious about, because a lot of the content creators we've talked to on here, you know, inside and out of the pod, most of them, including myself, are primarily long form creators. And obviously I've delved into shorts and sort of trying to blend a mix of the two, which I feel like a lot of people are trying to do these days. But obviously you started, you know, correct me if I'm wrong here, pretty much primarily on shorts and TikTok exclusively. And obviously now you're making that jump over to long form, and that's the meat on the bone I really want to get into. But there's other people in that space, like Lionel Rivera. I'm sure you've spoken to him. You know, he's a big name in the MMA space, done the same sort of thing, pivoted into that long form scene. What's that been like for you as a creative sort of transition, if that's the word to use? How has that affected your workflow?
I would say in some ways it was freeing, and then in other ways it was difficult, because I feel like a lot of people, this is just human nature. You get attached to the views, right? And so I,
Mate, yeah.
yeah, I knew it was going to be a grind. It was going to be completely different just because I saw how the YouTube algorithm seemed to work. It seemed like people who were going from shorts to long form, it looked like two different channels because you could see it in their views. So I just looked at it as I've always looked at YouTube as like that's the big boys league, like that's the NFL, that's the UFC. So I grew up watching YouTube, and so I always was like I want to get into long form. And a big part of the reason why it took so long, I feel like for me, is like you wait on what's the idea I want, or like what am I even going to make. So that was the problem I ran into, is
Yeah.
trying to space out that content into a longer form, obviously. And then on top of that, it's like you kind of brainwash yourself when you're making shorts into that format. It's limiting in some ways, and like I feel like you just think I have to capture their attention in 2 seconds. And in long form, it's really freeing that you don't have to do that, because I remind myself all the time now, that I make some long form videos. It's like you can say what you want. You don't have to try and get it out.
Yeah, I need to remind myself of that as well. And I would always make this point. Me and Will have talked about it quite a lot. Was there any motivation behind that decision to change your style of content? Was it in any way part due to potential lack of connection or with your fan base and audience? Because I've made this argument with Will, because Will's very well versed in that space as well, that you don't really get that same level of connection with your audience by doing short form content, because it's a lot more digestible and a lot more flowing, and you're just on to the next thing straight away. Was that
I always
a motivational factor? Yeah, I know you disagree, but that's where I stand on it personally. Was there any sort of was that any, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but was that part of the reasoning for your jump to long form at all?
Yeah, actually a massive reason, because like I said, when you get the views, it's not that people didn't care, because I still have people that messaged me that started watching me from my first video. But I just took a step back and I really thought about what is it I want. And I think a lot of creators struggle with this, because it's what do you want, and it all comes back to attention, views. But really for me, I care about more than anything is community, and all the creators that are my favorite type of creators, they have really strong communities. And it's like you said, when you're on shorts, it's just the nature of shorts and TikTok is you're literally scrolling from one to the next, and you need that dopamine hit. You need someone to capture your attention really, really fast, and then on to the next. And there are some shorts creators, don't get me wrong, that have that like personality based following where they created a community. It's just not what I wanted. Like long form is what I consume, and I always want to make things that I like. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, watch pretty much all long form videos. So I was like, I want to make something that I would want to see.
Yeah, I'll just throw one more before I. Sorry, well, just one more before I jump it back to you. Obviously now with your long form style, I feel like particularly in the MMA niche, which now over the last year I think you'd agree is so saturated with different types of content creators, but they're all following a very specific format of that talking head talking to the camera, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but because there's so many of them now following that MMA guru and Lucas Tracy sort of trend, it's very difficult to stand out. And I think you're one of the only creators, I can't think of another one who in the niche who does it in the same way you do. And this is where I was going to ask, because I don't know anyone replicating your style of content in the space. Was there anyone outside of the niche that you took inspiration? Because for those who don't know, Troy, I'm sure you could explain it better than I do, but you do a green screen, highly edited style of content, and I love it. It's some of my favorite content on the space. Who inspired you, sort of outside of the MMA niche, to make that style of content, or was it just off a whim?
Yeah, I mean, I've always used the green screen, even back to like when I started doing those like fake interviews.
Yeah.
So I've always had an interest in the green screen, and then probably my GOAT creator, my number one, is Dr. Disrespect, and everything he does is on a green screen.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for long form, I just kept thinking back. I did one video where it's like more traditional talking head, and it just didn't feel natural. Doesn't feel.
It's not you.
Yeah, it didn't feel like me. And then one day when I was watching Dr. Disrespect, I was just like, he's created this entire universe from one room.
Yeah,
and then,
it's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. I actually saw a screenshot, or he posted a tweet of his room, and it was about the same size as mine. Like, it's a little bit bigger. But I was like, oh my God. I was like, he's doing all this from a room. I was like, I don't have to go to all these places.
Yeah.
And that's not really what I ever envisioned myself doing either. So I was like, let's try the green screen and see what happens.
Just quickly, have you seen a content creator called Nakey Jakey? He doesn't really operate in the he operates in the game niche, but his style of green screen editing is pretty much very similar to what you do. I just was wondering if he was on that list. I certainly wouldn't have surprised me, but I think you should check him out if you don't know. He does it very well. But yeah, Will, go ahead, man.
No, I was just, you hit a really good nugget of information earlier that I think maybe some people would have missed. But I think super important what you said. When it came to the content, it was more a case of, okay, you tried a couple of different things, but you understood what felt a lot more natural and what you enjoyed consuming. And I think sometimes if you lean down the avenue of trying to create things that you enjoy consuming and do it in a very natural and authentic way, and that's easier said than done, that takes years of repetition, then I think it's going to become a lot easier to become that sort of one-of-one brand and create good organic content. And I think that's what you do a good job of, and that's what you said you obviously honed. And I think the people that get to the top of their particular brand, they do that very well. So I think that was just a good thing to highlight. But yeah, as you were, Leo, sorry my friend, I just wanted to touch on
that. Please, I thought you had something else there. I
did. I just wanted to ask Troy, because there's a lot of people, right, who are getting into the industry, or maybe they have started seeing more creators and people that are doing this full time now. Whether it's the likes of, MMA Guru is always a good example, right? He gets so much traction. But there's a lot of creators doing this full time. There's a lot of people who be working a job, or maybe at school or at college, or having a side hustle to sort of supplement the pay for that, or at least they would need to if they wanted to do that full time. How do you sort of balance the two between the job that you said that you've started in Austin and also your content creation? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just work my 40 hours like I'm supposed to. I try to do as best as I can at my day job, and then I look at that as like that's the fuel that keeps the wheels going on this side thing. And so hopefully, as I keep going, I can get it to overtake that pay, and then eventually quit the job. Hopefully my boss never listens to this, but
are you close to that? Are you close to that goal? Is that looking like a realistic opportunity in the future?
I think by the end of this year, if all things go well.
I think
growth isn't linear, is it? So sorry.
I think no. All I was going to say, Leo, is because what we've spoke about this before, right? I think most people, and this isn't going to be exclusive just to MMA, but I think most people with side hustles, that's the kind of structure of it, right? That's the blueprint of it. People are like, how do you do this? How do you start that? How do you get that full time? Well, it's like, okay, you can't do it full time because it doesn't pay anything. So at this time, you have to, like Troy said, have a vehicle to essentially burn that energy to get you places. So you need that money, you need that fuel essentially. And then you get to a point where you can sort of maybe reduce this and you can increase this a little bit more. And then hopefully we all get to a period where this completely takes over and you can do it full time. And thankfully, there are people in the industry now doing that. And I think it's showing people, like you said there, Troy, just how the sort of blueprint of it, because you have to do your 40 hours, do what you need to get by, and then just go home and hustle. And touching on your content, because it's highly edited, one thing that we have to remember is, how do you balance the editing of that? Because it is time consuming and it is hard to continuously improve and level it up,
Yeah, honestly, sometimes I'll edit during my my job hours, but so just anytime. And sometimes I would run into, it feels like work again. It feels like you just got off work and you're working again. So I kind of had to train myself and reframe how I thought about it, and not really look at it as like there's this thing I have to do. I just kind of try to get through the first 5 minutes and just be like, okay, I started editing for 5 minutes. I can keep going. Or I started writing for 5 minutes, just keep going. And when I started to look at it like that and just kind of like ease your way into it, instead of like looking at it as like, I time block this off and I'm going to write for 2 hours. It's just, every time I did that, I
doesn't work, right?
It doesn't work. I don't look forward to it.
I've said that pretty much exact same word for word to Will so many times, on different episodes. When you start time zoning and blocking out things of your day, scheduling, obviously it does work for some people, but I think more in particular for creative minds and people more in this content creation space, I'm exactly the same. I work completely free flow. I don't time any hours or anything. I pretty much just work when I want to work and feel like working. And when that creative spark really hits, and that's where I find my best success. When you enter that flow state, when you're writing a script and you're just flying, you know the feeling. Yeah. And when you try and go the other direction, as I said, and start adding restrictions and all that, it just doesn't work and you lose the motivation. How did you really reframe your mind in that regard, as you said, to retrain yourself to find it less of a chore? Because I know that feeling, particularly with the editing process, was never my favorite part, and I'm slowly starting to enjoy it more because I'm reframing my like pipeline and what I'm doing and how I'm achieving my goals in the edit, but also just the way I look at it sort of retrospectively. How does that work for you?
I try to look at it the same way as if I'm relaxing. I know it sounds weird, but I try to just frame it as like I'm hanging out, like I'm just chilling out, and I'm gonna write. And whatever comes of the writing, whether it's usable or unusable, I'm just gonna kind of detach myself from the result and just do it. Just I'm gonna sit here for an hour and I'm going to write, or I'm gonna edit as much as I can. And sometimes that means I feel like I get 5 hours of work done in just a couple, and then sometimes it feels like I got 2 minutes of work done in a couple hours. So it goes back to exactly what you're saying. Is if I'm not feeling it, or I just kind of have to push through, but not to the point where it's like you feel like it's a chore. Anytime I start to feel like, especially like editing or writing, I'm towards the end of this and I need to just chug through the ending portion, and I feel like I'm getting sloppy. That's when I'm like, okay, I should probably stop, because I'm just trying to get through this task and I'm not actually focusing on like the quality or what I'm actually doing.
I think you hit on one thing there as well, that just when the different things that you've been saying have just been going off like alarm bells to me, because when I look at all the process, because it's true, when I look at all the process and I try and identify, okay, what are key patterns or what are key behaviors, because we get these questions a lot between us. I'm sure we get many questions through our inbox in regards to, how do you do this? How do you build that? How did you get this opportunity? Different things along those lines is why we're talking here. And one of those things, and we've spoke about this before, Leo, again, is what you said there, Troy, is in regards to the discipline of it. It's the discipline is the most important thing. People, it's like motivation is like, that won't last. They always call it the mental candy, right? But you said there, you had a really good way of keeping that discipline, is getting the bare minimum commitment. Okay, do 5 minutes because I've had a long day. I've been working. I've done 40 hours. I've done another job. Okay, give me 5 minutes. And then if you start battling that, it's like, okay, how much of a priority is it for you? And clearly by your actions, it's high on your priority list. And then on top of that, you're keeping it sustainable, where you're not just burning yourself into the ground and redlining. Sometimes you're going, okay, right, okay, we'll chill a little bit here. So I think the sustainability of your approach and the discipline is a couple of takeaways that anyone that listening are the ingredients that you need in this game, like when you're coming up. So I just wanted to highlight that. But
yeah, I'll add to that a little bit, because I think you touched on it basically, but it's like finding that balance of discipline, which is just showing up and doing the thing, and not overdoing it to the point where you feel like you're stressing yourself out to the point where you're like, I don't even want to do this, because it's like, why would I engage in a side hustle that I don't enjoy, or whatever it is that you're doing. Like if you're doing this for long term, it has to be enjoyable. And then this is a cat. So
he makes it.
Name.
But yeah, I think those are all really good points that you just said. So I just try to basically tiptoe that line between wanting to do it and kind of like talking myself out of that thinking of being like, it doesn't really matter if you want to, but at the same time it does. I know that's like a lot of
I get you. No, I get you. I mean, what sort of methods do you use to sort of, I guess, achieve that state? Because for me, I found a lot of early enjoyment in the creative process, primarily for my long form videos, and building on those, making them better, longer, and just higher production, and just starting to learning to enjoy that process. But obviously, the shine does wear off a bit. You want to change, especially with creative minds. I think, in particular, you're constantly trying to find the next thing, to feast into, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And for me, I started doing live streaming, and that was partly to build a community, which obviously I'll get into as well with you. But that I ended up burning myself out massively. I was streaming, the early enjoyment came, and I was like, the dopamine hit, this is so much fun. And I started streaming every day for like 3 weeks, and then I burnt out like crazy, and then didn't for like 2 months. And now I'm slowly building that back up with a schedule. So obviously you're talking about balance. How do you achieve that, in your content creation and in your sort of creative pipeline?
Balance and just like between everyday life and
why not go outside of the creative space as well in general.
I really, it's like what we've all been saying is just like, you don't want to go over that line where it starts to become something that you don't look forward to. And at the same time, like, there is a, like you said, repetition. Like, you just have to do it, or you tell yourself you have to do it, the same as like going to the gym. Like, you just have to show up. But when I frame it into like, I'm showing up, I'm just going to do, like you said, what I can. I'm going to do as best I can at this moment. And I don't frame it as like, in this hour, I have to write 10 pages or whatever, whatever the end goal is. It helps me a lot that I'm just going step by step, and I try to cross the bridge when I get there. I try not to worry about, I don't have a conclusion to this video and I'm not really sure where to go, like towards the middle. I'm kind of lost. And I'm like, well, I know the beginning. So just start at the beginning, just start there. And then when you get to the middle where you're confused, whatever, you'll get there.
So what do you do outside of, sorry, Will, I just wanted to just finish off on this point.
Go on.
What do you do outside of content creation to sort of achieve that balance, recreationally? For me, obviously I haven't trained in a while, but jiu-jitsu was a big part of that for me, and martial arts in general, which obviously technically is still in that space of MMA, but it doesn't count as work, right? It doesn't feel like work, and that's important. So what do you do, outside of the content grind to achieve that balance?
Yeah, the main thing is actually boxing. So I box 4 or 5 times a week. And that's another thing too, because I'll go through stages where it's like all in obsessed with boxing. And then some days I wake up and like, I don't want to go at all. But it's kind of just those little things in your life where you carry it over into whatever the next thing is. So because I showed up at boxing, even though I didn't want to, it makes me writing at the end of the day feel a lot easier. At least it does to me.
Yeah.
That's so true as well, because all the things that you said earlier, as you were saying them, is if anyone's gone to the gym, whether it's weights or whether it's combat sports, it's the exact same. It's the exact same process. It's the exact same mindset. It's the exact same repetitions. You have to get over that. Oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, I'm not very good. You have to get over all of that. So the game is very similar. It sort of loops back into a question I wanted to ask you, right? Because one thing you said there, just start at the beginning and then see where it goes. I love that, because I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, is they get analysis paralysis and they get stuck on the start line, and they're so worried about how they're going to get to the end, they don't even take the first step. They're just looking at the biggest creators usually and thinking, how do I get there? I don't know how to do that. So they don't do anything. No one knows how to do that. So I like that approach, which kind of comes into my question of, with your brand, do you have a sort of, or your business, whatever you'd like to call it, are you one of those people that has long-term goals, short-term goals, medium-term goals? Or are you someone that works very much in the moment and then sees what opportunities come from the back end of what you are doing?
Yeah, I guess I have loose long-term goals where it's like, obviously every YouTuber wants to hit 100,000 subscribers. Every YouTuber,
Holy grail.
Yeah, every YouTuber wants more views, all these things. But I just really try to detach myself from the end result. I know it's super cliche, but I just try to detach myself from all of that. Like, yes, all of those are goals in the distance. Like, I can see them in my head. Like, I want those things, but I more so try to just be here right now, because I can't get to 100,000 subscribers, or I can't get to more views if I'm not focused on creating something better right now, or, being all in on this task at whatever I'm working on at the very moment.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's good in what you do as well, because where the content you sort of create is, when you go all in every time on a video, or at least all your energy and attention, that it only takes one piece of content to completely change your life, especially with what you do and the amount of eyeballs that it gets. So that's a very, very sort of positive way to sort of look at it, I guess. Yeah, I always just find that interesting, because it's always a difficult balance, right, of sort of having goals but also still just trying to be very process orientated, because that's one thing I noticed with you. I think when you look at entrepreneurs that have been successful, or creators that have been successful, you find that when they eventually get to a point where they've had a lot of success and they're very reflective, they all speak about the same thing: being process orientated, understanding there's no finite goal, and getting obsessed with the details and obsessed with the product, and the rest will sort of take care of itself. So it's very clear to see with what you're doing that's only going to continuously grow. Sorry, Leo, I went off on a tangent, mate. When I get I get a bit pumped up with these things.
No, I love it.
Yeah. I was just going to build off on that. I always make a point in my videos. I always find myself going back to a sort of similar line of thinking and writing. I think when you put so much weight on an end goal, which I did initially when I first started making videos, I was like, right, we're going for this. We're going all the way to this. And I think the more and more I make videos, you start to detach yourself from that as you are. And I think because idolizing such a goal, like 100,000 subscribers in particular, obviously, as you said, everyone wants that plaque, that shiny silver play button, right? But the more you idolize that thing, that idea, the moment you hit it, you just fall off a cliff completely. And I'm so worried that that's going to happen. And that's why I realized trying to detach myself from that. And it goes outside of the creative process as well. I mean, you talked about you like doing boxing. You know, Tyson Fury, he was the same. You know, when he fought Vladimir Klitschko, he won the belts, of course, and, you know, achieved everything he ever wanted, and then just completely fell off mentally and spiraled massively. And I think that's applicable. That sort of arc is applicable to any sort of niche, if you will. Sorry, again, you're talking about tangents. I'm
potentially feeling like
no, I just meant like
no, it just like 100% see what you're saying. It just went so extreme because it went. I 100% got what you mean, but it just went from 100k to.
I have a flair for the dramatic in my script, so there you go.
No, I like it, but I didn't expect it to go there. But I 100% agree with you. The one experience I had this week, and I don't mean to hijack this, but it's just something that I experienced for the first time, is I actually had this interaction. I had an interaction with someone in real life, and I hit a milestone on Instagram for the first time. On Instagram, so I was getting messages about it. Just a couple of people like, "Oh, well done," and stuff. I didn't really pay much interest to it, to be honest, because we spoke about it before. It's got to a place where it's like very irrelevant, because I've started realizing that when I meet these people in real life, I met this person at the gym. Seeing people's reactions, what they are now to what they were 2 years ago, when people hear my brand or meet me or whatnot, is what I then realize is where all the value comes from. And I start realizing, okay, I have to be obsessed with the one person, because then when I meet these people in real life and they have that strong connection to the brand and to what I'm building, that's a lot more meaningful than I realized when my metrics are just going up, you know. It's seeing the difference, the tangible difference of just people's reactions to, I've been following the brand this guy had been following the brand for 3 years. I met him in Bangtao and he ended up taking photos for me. And it was a really cool experience. But yeah, I didn't mean to hijack.
And that goes back to community. That goes back to community. As I said, Troy, as you said, the transition from short form to long form, Will, I know you disagree, but I feel like it fosters a bit better community when you have.
Let me just step in 1 second. Because I don't disagree.
I know
you said it earlier, and I said yeah, and then I was like, actually no. Let me explain what I mean more thoroughly about that. What Troy said was perfect after it, because he said, because that's what I enjoy. I don't think it's an. That's true. I don't think it's an and. I just think it's an or. You know, I don't think it's an or. Sorry, I think it's an and. I think it's some people just consume more of one product. You know, they just consume more of one particular. For me, for example, I don't really consume a lot of content, but I consume a couple. Research short form and trending news and Instagram and Twitter and things like that, and then podcast long form. So I don't really consume outside of that. So there's going to be a lot of people I don't watch. So it's not like I think there's the reason I say that is because I don't think there's a place to create a superior brand. If your audience only watches short form, then I don't believe that being on long form is going to be better for your brand, because your audience doesn't really watch a lot of long form and doesn't watch that's what I mean by that. I just mean different people absorb in different ways, and to reach different people in your thing, it may look differently. That's all I mean. I just mean there's not one better than the other, is what I meant.
Yeah.
And also what I think, it gives more touch points. That's all. That's the one that I think.
Yeah. And Troy, you said about community, just carrying on from that. What ways are you trying to sort of connect with your audience now? Because obviously I said about live streaming. I run a Discord now with a bunch of people who watch my videos, and allows me to really connect with my viewers a little bit more rather than just the comment section. Is there anything you're trying to do to achieve that?
Yeah, so back to like my TikTok days, I kind of speed ran this whole thing where I, tried to make a Discord, tried to do all these things to cultivate a community. And I had a little community, but it's like, I made so many mistakes along the way where like I wasn't prepared to run a Discord, and the Discord failed because of that. So it's like, now I want all those things. Like I want a Discord eventually. I have plans for live streaming, but I ran into actually the same problem you did, because I wanted to try the fight companions.
Mate. Yeah.
I love live streaming, but I enjoy watching the fights on my own so much more.
It kills the enjoyment, doesn't it?
Yeah. And not only that, it's just it goes back to everything that you guys have already been saying that we've talked about, is that you have to plan. I think everything that you do as a creator, entrepreneur, whatever, you should be planning for the future. Like when you think of goals, I think your number one goal should be enjoyment. So like everything I do is like, I just want to look at this in 5 years or whatever the timeline is and be like, I would enjoy that 5 years from now. But if I looked at like the live streaming is a great example. I love live streaming. I just don't like the fight campaigns. And I was like, what's going to happen when there's a huge card and I want to hang out with my friends? So I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy sitting here. And I like live streaming and talking to people, but it's like, man, I just want to watch the fight sometimes. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. What was the original question?
Please.
Yeah.
You know, you were bang on, because when you were speaking, I was thinking, I'm 100% with you. I've done some before where I'm like, this is a lot of energy and attention, and my work is this all week, and my escapism from work is my work in its purest form on a Saturday evening.
Yeah, that's what we say,
yeah. It's
I don't want it disrupted.
I've seen so many creators. Because I'm going into my 4th year now creating content, so it's like I feel new because I haven't done long form that long, but I feel old because I've been doing this for long in terms of just content creation. But I've seen so many people. I've seen friends of mine that I've had relationships with where they're so attached to the views, they will stick with something that they have no enjoyment to, and it shows through in the final product, where you can see someone is banging their head against the wall just trying to recreate views. And I ran into this problem super early on, because it's like I liked doing the things I was doing earlier. I like being funny. I like doing the fake interviews, but it's like I didn't want to become the fake interview guy. And I feel like I just sat down one day and I was like, why would I let my content pigeonhole me into something? And so I just had like
the term I was going to use.
Yeah. I had like an existential crisis where it's like, I can't think of any new ideas. Like, why can't I think of anything? And then I just realized, I was like, I can't think of any ideas because I'm trying to create an idea of what I think people want to see, instead of trying to make something that I truly want to make.
I think, again, that comes back to balance. Yeah. I mean, I put a video out maybe a month or two ago, and it was like, it did really well. It's like my second most viewed video on YouTube, but I really don't like it. It was like a video on every type of UFC fan. And it's just like a complete departure from what I usually do. It was a bit more funny, but there's nothing wrong with that. But I like, storytelling. I like being a bit dramatic. I like being a bit whimsical and delving into that. Similar to how, again, Tom, Mixed Martial Academic, does, so shout out to him. And it almost annoyed me because that video did so well, and it was just a complete 180 of everything I'm used to and like to make. And again, you talked about that existential crisis, and I sort of go through those mini existential crises. I feel like you go through the same thing. You'll know. I mean, when you creative minds in this MMA space, it's a constant battle in your mind. I think you'll probably agree.
Leo, I want to touch on what you said there, because it's so weird that you two just said both of those things. These are things that I've been writing down and battling with literally the last couple of days, just roughly along those lines. Because I won't bore you with the long details, Leo, but essentially I was started to watch a video because I thought it was one video of a certain creator, and it wasn't. And I asked myself, why did I scroll off of that? It's because the video that it ended up being started going into a serious training video of push-ups and press-ups. I thought it was going to be Marab running through the desert doing a skit. I thought, why did I scroll off of that? And I was like, okay, because I thought one was going to be entertainment and I didn't want that thing. And then it happened to be on the day that Nina hit 1.5 years and 2 million followers. So I ended up seeing a lot of the entertainment MMA stuff. I started realizing how big entertainment was. I'd always put off that side of things because I was always like, okay, I'm not like the guy to come up with, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And I thought, I'm looking at it wrong. I need to create entertainment in what I would, like Troy was saying, I would find entertaining and what I enjoy, and then take advantage of that market. The reason I say that is because with you obviously have a good eye for that entertainment side, and you have a good eye for humor or entertainment in that side, but just do it in your own voice and style. You said, oh, I'm more dramatic and a bit more cool, do that, but just entwine the entertainment element, and it doesn't have to be 100% of your content. It can be 20 or 30. Troy, just coming back to you. Sorry, I went off on one there. Something I was.
We love tangents on this podcast.
Yeah, I love it.
Massively.
I love it.
Yeah. Coming back to you though, Troy, just really selfishly, because you spoke about Discord there, and that's something that I'm really playing with at the moment, because it's like what you said. You said a good few gems that I need to keep coming back on, because these are big points, I think, in the journey. Is like you said, you tried to speed run the community, and this is something everyone wants to do. Everyone wants to speed run having a built-in network and community. Well, yeah, of course, but the fact is it takes years and years to to hone and curate, and you can't do that by obsessing over the people that are connecting and engaging. And the reason I say this is when you said you made a lot of mistakes in the Discord, what was that? What did that look like? Or anything that you would maybe do differently if you were to start now is probably a better way to frame that.
Yeah, well, I use Discord pretty much every day. This is
it's very good, isn't it?
Yeah, this is weird, but I played Madden like my entire life. That's a American football game. And, so
I'm
when
not
I was
that
like,
uncultured.
No. We might be English, but we know.
I'm not that far away from the world. Like, I'm a little bit far away, not that far away.
So I started playing with like the same group of guys that I found them on like a forum, and we maintained a franchise, which is like you build your teams, you know, like you.
Oh, it's like pro clubs on FIFA.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
Yeah. So you take your favorite team or whatever team you get, and you can build a team, and you play for years, and then the new game comes out, you start over again. So I stayed with the same group of guys for 15 years, and I've never met any of these people. And we don't play Madden anymore. Like we're retired from Madden probably for like 2 years now, but we still talk every day because like we sports, whatever. But yeah, so I model a lot of things after that Discord because that Discord's so active. But it's like literally like just a group of dudes that are 30 dudes that have known each other for 15 years, but it's super active. So I made a Discord when I first started on TikTok, and the first thing I noticed was it's just dead, and it deters people from coming in when you have a Discord that's dead. And don't get me wrong, like I built some strong relationships with individual people that came to my Discord, probably like 30 people, but it's like I felt like I just started too early. And so now that I can look back on it, I'm just like, I want those things, but right now it's probably not conducive to what I'm doing because if I'm just making really good videos and I'm getting more subscribers, whatever, getting more people that want to connect with me, that's probably more bang for my buck than spending my time on a Discord right now. So I'm just going to wait it out until I have like, feels like a stronger community where you have all these things ready. And then when you do make a Discord, it doesn't feel like it's like this weird thing where there's like one person talking every 10 days. Not there's anything wrong with that because every Discord has to start somewhere. But it's that's cool, just what I want personally is that I just want it to be a little bit more bustling when I start instead of that grind at the start where it feels like I have to keep these 10 people entertained.
Would you say that at the start that's a sort of necessary evil? If you sort of had 10 people that didn't necessarily know each other, it's sort of on the server, I can't remember what they call it, the admin, to sort of keep it flowing, to sort of lubricate the conversation as such with maybe, because the reason I say this is because I feel like I got to a point where I need to start, it's what you said before about sort of pulling the strings on the infrastructure of different things, sort of tightening the ship up a little bit. And I feel like a way I need to tighten my ship up and the edges is to build an infrastructure of an actual community, because I have a lot of people that engage on different posts now or DM me and different things like this, but I don't have a uniform way to sort of have a nice seamless interaction. So I think Discord's that natural progression. I don't think it's going to be hundreds of people or thousands of people yet. I'm just thinking how I sort of run this. So I'm thinking, do I have to just sort of commit to maybe being that sort of social lubrication for a while until it gets picking up, do you think?
Yeah, I think if you started a Discord and you have a small community, it's going to be on you or whoever is in control to kind of be the one that's leading the conversation or making sure it's active, just because it's not because that we like want to hide that it's inactive or anything, but it's like if you're in a Discord, you want it to feel like, things are going on. You want there to be conversation. So I think it is kind of on you to make sure.
It's definitely responsibility there, 100%.
Yeah,
I feel the same. I let it down sometimes. Like I'm guilty of that myself. Because obviously you've got so many different things you got to check in on. Because at the end of the day, it is community, but it's also part of your work, right? So you have to consider it like that. So there's a lot of things you have to do. It becomes part of your mental checklist, if you will. I don't know if you sort of subscribe to that idea, but for me, it's like, right, I got to check the Discord, interact with the people, make sure they're having a good time, and keep that conversation flowing. And that's part of my work. That's one little sort of task I've got to do every day or two, give or take, make sure I'm keeping on top of things. So it does kind of become that sort of part of that creative process rather than like a individual sort of thing that you do for fun. It is work. I don't think and there's nothing wrong with saying that. I think you'd probably agree, right?
Yeah. And then another thing that, like, when you're building a stronger community, I've noticed a lot of other creators do it when they have such a big community. They have people that are like throwing themselves in there ready to be, Discord mod, be the person that's helping with the conversation.
Yeah, I've
so it's
heard
like
that as well. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like I'm trying to just reverse engineer that because I just don't want to put in the work to make a Discord right now. I'm just not at that place where I can focus that time on it. So I'd rather just wait, and then hopefully, as my community grows, I'll have people that are more willing to help me. Whether that's bring on an intern to help manage Discord,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But that's just where I'm at. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with starting a Discord with 2 people. Community is community, because one super fan is, to me, is more important than whatever 10,000 views that don't matter.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing to do that a lot of creators miss out on a lot. And obviously, I talked about fostering the community. That's been a big topic of conversation here. But a lot of people don't value their audience as much as they should. They don't see them as individuals, and I don't think you should, because you don't want it to be like a, what's the term I'm looking, parasocial, right? You've got to be careful not to lean too far into that. But valuing your audience and valuing what they bring and provide for you is so important. And doing that in live streams in particular, I always make a point of that. I'm very thankful for the people who tune in every week, not just to my live streams, to my videos, to everything. And you get rewards back from that. That is reciprocated. So you get a more consistent viewership, particularly on your live streams. And I feel like a lot of creators miss out on that. I mean, I don't really know where I'm going with it. Again, a bit of a tangent, but
no, I've got something to jump on the back end of that. I've got something to jump on the back end of that. Just to ask both of you, really, Troy, I'll ask you first. For anyone that's listening to this, I think a term that is used a lot is creating an audience or growing a community or giving value. But to give a sort of more tangible, Leo, you mentioned their live streaming, which is a really good one. But to give another tangible answer, what would you say some things are maybe people listening could do to foster their community, or things that maybe you do?
Yeah, I think it all goes back to the main question, which is, what do you want? And I think that applies to community as well. It's like, what do you want in a community? And for me, I can only speak from my experience, but every community that I've ever wanted to be a part of, especially like revolving around a creator, it always has to do with like, I want to hang out with this person. Like, I feel like whatever, I'm watching their live stream or I'm watching their video, I feel like I'm just a fly on the wall in a room hanging out. So that's kind of where I get a lot of inspiration for my content.
Agreed.
Like, I want it to feel like, if you like the content, you would probably feel like you're just hanging out, you're just chilling, So that's where I get mine. So I don't know if you want a community that's more Mr. Beastie, where everybody's yelling. Maybe that's more your speed, but yeah, but I try to just foster, or try to create content around what I would want to see, which then in turn makes hopefully a community that I would want to hang out with, because they're watching something that I would enjoy.
I guess that value then, to summarize that, I guess the value then comes through the entertainment, right? Because that's an aspect that sometimes people forget. They think, I don't know how to create value. Okay, well, create entertaining videos. If you create great content, that's very, very valuable. People that have 30 minutes in their day and they want to watch a really good video about MMA and it to be entertaining, and that's great value to them. So that's just as good as an avenue as any. Leo, anything that you wanted to add on to the top of that? Or
I was saying, what is the crux of your creative process in terms of creating a successful video, whether that's by your own standards or by YouTube standards, so metrics? What is that for you? For me, it's the idea, and then the writing process, I feel like, is paramount towards creating a good video. What is that for you?
Yeah, definitely the idea. The idea is what I struggle with the most, just because for me, at least, I don't know why I have this in me, but it's always just been the thing where I truly want to try to be as close to being unique as possible. I know that ideas are a dime a dozen, but I really do want to make things that are as close to one of one as possible. Like I said, it's not truly possible to be one of one, but that's like a big pillar of mine. Yeah. In some ways, it's I try not to attach myself to the idea too much, that you're coming up with something that no one else has come up with, because the odds are they have. But yeah, the idea, and I'll agree with you, the writing and the idea are number one for me, because if you don't have a good idea that people want to see, and then also the ability to kind of craft an idea that people don't know they want to see yet, because I feel like a lot of people get trapped in, they're making things based on things that they've already seen, and they want to basically replicate that from, like, whether that's within the niche or outside of the niche. But I try my best to try and make things that people don't know that they want to see yet. And that's part of the risk is like, I don't know if they
Yeah, I
want
was
to
going
see
to say
it.
that's very high risk, high reward, but it can be so high reward because actually you did that video on Sean Strickland that did really well, and that's a perfect point to make actually because I did a video on Sean Strickland right before he fought Dricus, and it's one of my favorite videos that I did. I really enjoyed it because I lent more into the psychology, the human side of things, and that's where I really enjoyed the process. But it was one of my worst performing videos. It did like a couple thousand views, and I was so bummed about it. I was like, I almost felt like it might be arrogant to say, but I was like, didn't deserve this amount of views. It should have been more. But everybody says that, and you're like, well, there was obviously something wrong with it. But you, for example, you did a video on Sean Strickland, and obviously he's a high performing sort of character in the space. He's a big name. He draws the numbers, and you framed it in a way completely differently, and obviously had so much success with that as a result. So I think that's a good point you make about taking that high risk, high reward approach rather than following trends and things that have been done, doing it in your own way and trying to find something one of one, as you said.
I was
think
actually
as well. There's go on, Troy. Go on.
Oh, sorry about. I was gonna say I was actually scared to post that video because I wanted to stay away from the opinion side so much, just because I enjoy being lighthearted so much. But this video, it was just fresh on my mind, and like I had just started writing about it. And when you feel it, like you said earlier, like when you feel like things are just flowing, like I wrote that video probably in like under 2 hours just because of how many thoughts I had. Like I could just see it in my head. I was like, I could see the entire video, and so I just did it. And I almost, not that I didn't almost post it, but I was really unsure of what the result would be. And I was like, I'm going to get so many hate comments. I was like, I don't want to be part of this, but I'm glad I did it because then, opens up another avenue where I could do something like it later, or, just be more confident in, just if I want to share my opinion, I can share my opinion.
I think something that you touched on there, Troy, and as well, you spoke about it before, Leo, about sort of with the content and the originality as well. Just my 2 cents on that. I always think you always hear people that say no idea is truly original, right? So there's this idea that sort of everything has already been done. It's just about doing it in a slightly different way. I think that is true as well. I think certainly in MMA as well, I think the objective truth is there's only a certain amount of topics, right? Obviously there's millions, however you angle that, but there's a finite amount. I think you could get 10 people that speak about the same thing, but I think you get 10 different outcomes. And I think that's what people like yourself and Leo are doing well now, where sometimes the ideas, they're original. The base is going to be somewhat similar to others, but it's more so just storytelling in your own way. And that finds its one-of-one lane. So you instantly become unique from your own creation, even though the idea may be about the psychology of Sean Strickland at a very base level, which is not necessarily unique. The way you storytell and present it is obviously is very different to that. So yeah, it's quite impressive. But I just want to as we sort of wrap up, because we've been going for about an hour, and I know Leo was really looking forward to this. So I appreciate your time, and I was really looking forward to it as well, just to hear someone that sort of creates very high level of quality in a different way on multiple platforms. So it's always interesting to sort of hear the process. But just wanted to hear some of your thoughts on an upcoming event that's close to our hearts. I want to get your take on it. Anything that you want to throw out me on the matter. UFC Manchester. What comes to mind when I say those words to you?
The first thing that comes to mind is I can't believe that they scheduled it for, what is it, like 3 a.m. or something?
It's normal time for us, yeah. So normally for us, prelims, unless I'm wrong here, prelims start at 11, main card starts at 3, which is the same time as anytime we're watching a pay-per-view, which is why I was saying doing watch-alongs, up until 7 a.m. is like, it is rough. That's why I didn't want to do those when we were talking about it earlier. But yeah, I agree. I think it's completely unjust. Like, I get it from a business perspective, but come on, like, we don't get many events in England. You got to give us something,
I mean, just for the home fighters, I feel like you can't do that.
Yeah, you don't even consider that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess second thought would be Tom Aspinall should be fighting John Jones at this. But
mate, you're speaking our language. We are number one Aspinall fans. The amount of times we've ranted on that topic specifically. I do the same thing on my live streams as well. We're very passionate about that opinion. In fact, I actually did a video on John Jones this week, pretty much motivated by that hot topic of conversation over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, that's a minefield. But I mean, there's some great matchups on there. Obviously, nothing fully confirmed. What are you hoping gets finalized for that?
I don't have any hopes for like who's on there. I'm just excited to watch Tom. I love watching Tom fight because it's just so unique to see someone that big move like he does. I guess Cyril Gane is another one that moves like that, where they're just such large athletic humans, but they move really gracefully.
Yeah.
So just excited to see him fight again. And like I said, I wish it was for the belt. That's probably a topic for another day, but I wish they would do away with the interim belt, all that stuff. I think it's dumb.
Before we wrap this up, Troy, just give us a little breakdown of all the sort of, if you have any projects in the pipelines, if you have anything that people should look out for, and if not, just where people can sort of find all your socials.
Yeah, Troy Robert on everything. I should have a video coming out this week. My goal is to get to the point where I have 2 to 3 long form videos a month. I probably won't put out shorts anytime soon. I don't enjoy making shorts anymore.
It's just not fulfilling, right?
Yeah, it's not super fulfilling, and it's just not my, like I said, not my type of content. I don't watch shorts, so I just kind of fell out of love with making them. Yeah. Just keep an eye out for that, and then I have something planned for live streams probably in the next couple months where I will make a return to live streaming, just not fight companions.
Nice. Perfect. Well, this has actually been, Will, I made a mistake last week. I said last week was a commemorative episode 50 of the MMA Critics podcast, but it was actually this one, as I hoped it would be. So what a special way to round that number. So thank you so much, Troy. We appreciate it. MMA Critics podcast, episode number 50. We will see you next Sunday. Cheers.